All right, everyone, welcome. Welcome back to Soundwell Guitar. Today's topic is going to be kind of interesting. It's a personal experience that I had with my band Beastface making a music video. I haven't mentioned it too much on my channel that I am in a metal band called Beastface. These are three of my best friends. We've been together for about 10 years. Anyway, on our third album, we have a song called Big Belt Buckle. Big Belt Buckle. And we decided to make a music video out of that tune. Now, you probably saw the title of the video. What did it say? My band filmed a music video in front of a giant fire while standing in couch. Yeah, that's the title. I don't think that's going to do really well with the YouTube algorithm, but I don't really care because that's exactly what this story is about. We filmed a music video on a farm. We kicked around ideas for where we would shoot the music video. Thought about just doing it at a rehearsal space. I mean, anything was possible. We were connected with a filmographer. His name was Austin Schurzberg. Quite a pro, actually. We were really lucky to get him. But we also were connected with a Beastface fan and friend of the bass player in our band. Now, his name was Matt Ellitson. I'm not sure about the last name, sorry. But his name was Matt, really cool guy. Really like him. I consider him a friend now, too. Anyway, he owns this farm, and we're talking about a working farm. There's actual, like, animals and things on it. And so we all show up one Sunday morning at this farm to make the video. It was in October. It was a rather cold day. Okay, so we just showed up without any real idea what would the video be about. What are the shots going to be? We're just going to film all day, pretending to play the song Big Belt Buckle. That was another thing that came up too. Like, do we bring the amps? You know, we're going to have guitars. Do we bring the amps too? And it was like, well, that looks kind of weird. Like, what are we plugged into? I don't even think we had cables. So there's no cables. You know, but then I talked to a friend of mine and a student who does film. He's a film finishing editor. And I asked him about this dilemma. Like, you know, we were kind of obsessing, I guess. But he said, no. You know, you go and you're playing your instruments and you're standing in the middle of a field and you've got amps. Then the question is, what are they plugged into? Are there generators? Should you have generators in the shot? So it's like, all right, it was just decided upon. We just bring the instruments that we're playing. We're going to film all day on this farm in various locations, getting shots, and then just kind of seeing what happens. Okay, so it was a long day. We just started out at first. We're just getting set up. Austin's got this great technique that he uses where he brings these like lights. They were sort of like tubes, and sets them up in various places. And he started right away just setting up in the upper level of the barn, which was like a giant loft that had a lot of hay in it. Had a really cool look to it. It had these windows high up that looked like eyes, almost reminded me of the Amityville Horror. And as Austin was setting up these lights everywhere, we just started to get really excited because it just looked cool. We got to look through the lens of his camera, and we're like, this just looks so amazing. But yet we've got no idea what is it going to be about, and what would it even have to do with the song Big Belt Buckle. But we're just having fun. Let's see what happens. I've never made a music video before. So it was a fun day. I love that being in a band takes you to all these different like adventures that you wouldn't normally do if you weren't in a band or doing some kind of creative project. So anyway, you know, it was a long day. We started early, and beer helped. Yes, we were drinking a beer too while this was all happening. So anyway, you know, as we're hanging out, Austin's getting set up. There were barn cats around. There was even possum running around. But then an interesting thing happened. We had this breeze coming through the open door. Now, actually, to get up to this loft, there was just like this ladder. I don't mean like it was like 2x4s nailed to the wall, bringing you up to this door. So I'm really glad we didn't bring the amps for that. There's no way I was going to be carrying my rig up that. Anyway, we were up there, and it's just a big open door. There's nothing to close on it, but there's this this breeze coming through. There's just cold. We were cold. We were wearing our jackets most of the time if we weren't filming. So we decided we needed to cover up that opening. And so we found this giant piece of wood, big panel, heavy. And we leaned it up against the doorway. And at one point, the timing couldn't have been worse. Dave, our bass player, was bending down near that big panel. I think he was just setting up lights or something. I don't know. He happened to be in front of it, and he was kneeling down, and the wind hit this thing and blew it down, and it landed on top of Dave. I mean, it hit him in the head. I thought we were done before we even started filming, that he'd have a concussion or something. We're lucky. Dave he's a giant. He's big. If this had to happen to anybody in the band, he was the best candidate for it. Us little guys like me might not have fared so well. He took it like a champ. We put the board back, and he said his head hurt a little bit, but he was fine to keep moving. So after some time passed, it was maybe about an hour or so of setup. Everything's looking really cool. We're just in this one spot, this upper level of this barn, and we begin filming. I'm using this guitar in the video. That's why I'm holding it here. I'm not going to be playing it on the video, but it's just, there you can see it. This was the guitar that I had in the video. And we begin filming, and basically all we have to do is play the songs, but we're not plugged in any amps. We just have the song playing, and then we're just playing along with the recording. There was a bit of a dilemma on how we're going to start it, because the song just starts with everybody, the vocals, everything, all at once. We didn't have anything to cue us to start. So how is Austin going to line the video up with the song? How do we do that? He came up with a really clever idea. If you watch the video, I hope you do after this, you'll see that the very first shot of the video is of Chris's microphone on the floor of the barn, and then it shows him walk up to it. It shows all of our feet walk up into the shot. Whoops. Into the shot, and Chris picks up the microphone and then comes in. And this so that way we're able to do one shot of us just playing when Chris cues us, and then we seemingly start the tune, but then we start over again where we're then playing along with the tune. This made it a lot easier for Austin to line the shot up, but it also made for a really cool introduction on the video. Now, you probably noticed that in the video, we look like we're putting on the show of our life, and we tend to be very animated live. The headbanging and power stance and moving around kind of thing. We don't want to just stand there like plants. And this is true of our live show, but we also have to bring it to the video. The hard part is our typical set is anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes long. We had to do this all day long. We had to play this song over and over and over, because it's not like you just play the song once, guy films it and says, okay, we're done. No, shot after shot after shot. We had to continue to bring the same energy and run through the song over and over and over while Austin's moving his camera around, getting shots of me, shots of Chris, close-ups, everything. I kind of wish I had taken count how many times we had to play the song that day, but here we are doing it over and over and over, and this is only the beginning. We're in the loft right now. Well, afterwards, we now move down to the lower level of the barn, which this was interesting. It was all white, and there were all these stalls, I guess, for cows and things. And like I said, we're just kind of making this up as we went along. At this point, we just got shots of us performing in the loft, and that looks cool. Well, then more ideas started to come to us. I don't know who came up with this idea. It wasn't me, but all of a sudden we have this cage for a small animal, and it was out, and it was like, what are we doing with this? And I think it was Brad said, we're going to put Chris in that. Oh, really? Is Chris okay with this? And yeah, he's fine. So we started messing around with the cage in different ways. At first we had it lying down, so it's vertical, and we had Chris in it lying down, and that just didn't seem to work. So then we put it upright vertical and had him just crouched in it and had him bound with rope. So here was just something we just made up on the fly, working with the set that we have. Meanwhile, it was cool. The farm owner Matt was just hanging out the whole time, sitting on a bale of hay, just like I think he might have been drinking a beer, a cup of coffee. I don't know, just watching this thing be made. He looked pretty stoked. Anyway, so here we are, probably midday at this point now, filming into that lower part. Or no, it's getting a little bit later. But anyway, we've got Chris in the cage, and then we decide, well, okay, if Chris is in the cage, we do shots where we're like performing, and we've got Chris in front of us. And then we were, there were shots where Austin did double exposure, where Chris is in the cage, and then there's him. Then he's like talking to himself, and it's this like side by side look, and Chris is like talking to himself in the cage. Really cool shot. But then it was decided we needed to do another shot where we're banging on the cage with farm tools, like a shovel or a pitchfork or whatever. It's starting to get kind of intense. And Austin wanted us to be wearing masks. We hadn't prepared for this, so it's like, well, we can probably go get some. I mean, it was very close to Halloween, so Brad, the drummer, and Dave, the bass player, decided to head out to Walmart and just find some masks. Meanwhile, we were doing the shots with Chris and the double exposure, and you can see the microphone hanging in between them. That's me over out of the shot holding the cord so that it was just suspended there. Anyway, so we did all those shots. Those guys come back with masks. We put on these Halloween masks, and we do these crazy shots where we're banging on the cage. Now, this is where filming can start to get a little bit dangerous, because we really had to bang on the cage. And at one point we were doing a shot of we were banging on the cage so hard that it started to come apart. Chris could have gotten hit. We were wearing masks. We couldn't exactly see really well, but we had to make it look good. So there was some risk involved, and Chris was taking almost all that risk. So kudos to him. Anyway, we got those shots. Those were pretty cool. Well, next thing we know, Chris is about to be subjected to more abuse. Austin wanted to come up with some kind of mixture where it would be like a black liquid. And, it's like we throw it on Chris or what. I wasn't sure where we were going with it, but we watched him mixing it for a bit, and it was like cocoa and some other stuff, and he was just trying to mix together just like this muddy sludge or something. And so then we're talking about it. Now we're talking about, like what we're going to do with it. And it was decided upon we're going to throw it on Chris. It's just sort of like a scene where he's like in the cage and he's just being humiliated, I guess. And we're a little concerned because it's like 15 degrees outside. Mind you, we're inside and it's cold enough in there, but we actually also have plans to film outside the barn as well at night, because meanwhile, while this concoction's being mixtured and we're trying to figure out what our next move is, Matt's outside building the biggest fire I've ever seen in my life. I mean, bonfire, just this massive, massive bonfire on his huge property. And we're like, Chris, we're going to throw this stuff on you. It's wet. You're going to be soaked. We're probably going to do it a few times. Then you have to go outside wet. And Chris looked apprehensive, and I'm like, you don't have to do this. And he's like, I don't know if I want to do it. You could tell he was really unsure about whether it was worth it. So then Matt, the farm owner, went and had one of his cars out there. I think it was his car, maybe it was Austin, somebody's car. We decided to turn it on and crank the heat on it. And the idea would be is then we would do the shot with Chris in the cage, do the shots that we need to do, throwing this black water on him, and then immediately move him out to the car where it's warm so he can warm up, and then jump in front of the fire and film those shots then after. Okay, I liked how the shot turned out where we threw the water on Chris. We rush him to the car, and then we get out. Now we're in front of the fire. Now, this is where the title of the video came from. We were literally standing in cow you-know-what, and there were cows everywhere. We stood the risk during filming on the outside shots in front of the fire being photobombed by a cow at any time. It didn't happen. I kind of wish it did. That would have been funny. But anyway, the fire was hot. The fire was very hot. And we had to stand close to it, which also meant a lot of smoke inhalation. So this is where it was interesting. Like, you can find that filming something and trying to get just the right shots can be very uncomfortable, very grueling. And again, we have to perform the song more with more headbanging and moving around and everything else. And we're exhausted. The back of my neck was starting to hurt. This was just starting to get crazy, but well worth the work. So we're all standing in front of this fire, playing the song again over and over and over as Austin's moving around, getting all his different shots. He had a really cool light. I was jealous of his light. He had one light. Like, for my lighting just in here, I used two. He just had this one, and we're outside, and he was able to get that lighting. This guy was so good. I remember asking him, like, so where did you go to school for this? And he just goes, YouTube. Now, that's impressive. He's actually moved on he's done some videos now. He was doing one from Meshuggah, so he's doing really well. I thought it was cool too that he was doing additional shots of just the fire after we were done filming in front of it. And I asked him what it was for, and he said that it was like a side cash grab for him, that when he's on a set and he can get some cool shots like that, he'll take those and then he gets to sell them to other filmmakers that just need random footage like that. So very innovative person, I would say. Very clever. So anyway, I'll never forget this one moment where Austin wanted to get a shot of me by myself, and he had a specific spot on the fire. We had to go around back of it a bit. He was like, right here. And I'm like, all right. So I'm doing my thing, and he's filming me pretending to play Big Belt Buckle. But he's like, no, you got to get closer to the fire. So I go closer, and the first thing that happens is I'm just like coughing. I'm like pretending to play, but I'm like coughing. My eyes are watering. And he's like, you got to get even closer. I'm like, oh my God. So I get even closer. At one point, I feel the back of my head burning. And I'm like, and then my back gets hot. I'm like, if I stand here and do this for long enough, I will start on fire. I'm not kidding. But it was just an interesting experience to go through, knowing that that's the kind of work that has to go into like getting really cool shots like this. Now, this is nothing compared to, I'm sure, what Hollywood actors and stuff go through. And I just recently was watching this little documentary on YouTube about the making of a movie called Roar. I'd never heard of this. That's insane. That makes this whole thing look pale in comparison as far as the dangers go. Check that video out. It was called Roar. Anyway, I hope you found this video entertaining. I had so much fun making that video. I came home that night, I was exhausted, and the next day my whole body was just sore. But it was worth it because we loved the end results. Check out the video. It's on YouTube, and I'll post a link as well. Anyway, I'll catch you on the next video. Starting.